Over 3,400 years ago, the ancient Near East stood as a vibrant intersection of empires and ambitions. Nestled between the fertile valleys of the Nile and the Euphrates rivers, powerful kingdoms rose and fell, each vying for dominance. Around 1457 BCE, one of history's earliest documented battles unfolded, the Battle of Megiddo. This dramatic clash pitted the mighty Egyptian empire, under the command of Pharaoh Thutmose III, against a coalition of Canaanite vassals led by the king of Kadesh. At the time, Egypt flourished under the 18th dynasty, a period of prosperity that followed the long and influential reign of Pharaoh Hatshepsut. Her successor, Thutmose III, proved to be not only a brilliant military strategist, but also a visionary ruler determined to extend Egyptian influence throughout the Levant. The city-states of Kadesh and Megiddo, wary of this growing power, formed an alliance to resist Egyptian domination. Megiddo held strategic importance, serving as a vital gateway for trade routes connecting Egypt, Syria, and Mesopotamia. Control of Megiddo meant control over the region's economic and political lifelines. For Thutmose III, victory at Megiddo promised not only military triumph, but also total supremacy over the ancient Near East. Leading an army of approximately 10,000 soldiers, infantry, archers, and chariot divisions, the pharaoh marched north from Egypt. The opposing Canaanite coalition may have boasted twice that number, but their forces lacked unity and coordination. According to hieroglyphic inscriptions later etched into the walls of Karnak Temple, Thutmose convened his war council to decide on their path of advance. 3 possible routes lay before them: a long, circuitous southern road, a wide, open northern road, and a narrow, perilous mountain pass through the Aruna Valley modern Wadi era. While his generals advised caution, Thutmose made a bold decision. He would take the narrow pass, a gamble that had cost him dearly, but one that offered the crucial element of surprise. The Egyptians moved swiftly and silently, threading single file through the winding pass. Fortunately for them, no ambush awaited. Emerging from the Aruna Valley, they found themselves almost directly before the city of Megiddo, utterly stunning the Canaanite coalition, who had anticipated their arrival from another direction. The king of Kadesh had positioned his troops to the north and south of Megiddo, leaving the center of his formation vulnerable. Recognizing the strategic opening, Thutmose III quickly organized his army for battle. The Egyptian chariots, sleek, fast, and deadly, lined up beneath the scorching Canaanite sun. Trumpets blared, banners unfurled, and the pharaoh stood tall in his golden chariot, ready to lead the charge himself. The Battle of Megiddo was about to commence, a battle that would not only showcase the genius of one of history's first great military commanders, but also reshape the balance of power in the ancient Near East for generations to come. The resounding blast of bronze trumpets echoed across the valley of Megiddo. Beneath the intense Canaanite sun, thousands of chariots surged forward, raising a cloud of dust that resembled smoke billowing over the battlefield. Pharaoh Thutmose III stood proudly in his golden chariot, bow in hand, his gaze fixed firmly on the horizon. Across the plain, the Canaanite coalition, led by the king of Kadesh, formed dense lines, confident that their superior numbers would overwhelm the Egyptians. However, Thutmose III understood that his advantage lay in discipline and speed. He skillfully divided his forces into 3 wings: the center, under his direct command, the right flank, led by General Amenemhab, and the left, under the command of General Jehudi. His chariot divisions were expertly integrated with ranks of archers, creating a mobile wall of death, capable of both delivering devastating blows and providing effective protection in perfect harmony. As the armies drew within striking distance, the pharaoh raised his arm high. For Ammonius R.A., forward, he bellowed, and a storm of arrows rained down upon the enemy. The Canaanite lines faltered under the deadly precision of the Egyptian archers. Then, with a thunderous roar, hundreds of Egyptian chariots charged forward like a tidal wave. The Egyptian chariot was a marvel of engineering, lighter, faster, and more maneuverable than its Canaanite counterpart. Manned by a driver and an archer, these chariots darted in and out of the fray, unleashing arrows as they sped past. This effective hit-and-run tactic shattered enemy formations and instilled panic among the coalition ranks. The king of Kadesh attempted a counterattack, unleashing reserves from both flanks in a desperate attempt to encircle the Egyptians. But Thutmose III had anticipated this maneuver. He ordered his left and right wings to spread out in a crescent shape, trapping the Canaanites, and a deadly arc arrows rained down from all directions, turning the battlefield into a scene of utter chaos. The noise was deafening. The clash of bronze, the screams of men and horses, and the splintering of chariots. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Thutmose III remained calm and composed, directed his army with unwavering precision. Inscriptions at Karnak even recount how his horses were wounded during the battle. Yet he refused to retreat, commanding his troops until victory was assured. After hours of intense combat, the coalition finally broke. The Canaanite warriors fled towards the safety of Megiddo's walls, abandoning their chariots and supplies. Thutmose III ordered his forces to pursue, but he halted before the city gates, recognizing that overextending his army could turn triumph into disaster. Instead, he regrouped his troops and prepared for the siege of Megiddo, a campaign that would test his patience and strategic brilliance. As the sun began to set over the smoking battlefield, Egyptian banners fluttered in the fading light. The first phase of the battle was complete. Egypt had secured a decisive victory, but within the city walls, the king of Kadesh remained defiant. Behind Megiddo's imposing gates, the next chapter of the war was about to begin, the first documented siege in recorded history. As dusk settled over the valley of Megiddo, the Egyptian camp buzzed with disciplined activity. The towering city stood defiant against the horizon, its walls unbroken, its gates firmly sealed. Inside, the king of Kadesh and his remaining soldiers prepared for a desperate defense. The open field battle had concluded, but a different kind of war was about to commence. A war of hunger, patience, and endurance. Pharaoh Thutmose III, a master strategist, understood that a direct assault would be a grave mistake. The city's fortifications were formidable, and Egypt lacked the heavy siege engines needed to breach them. Instead, he chose wisdom over haste, employing what historians would later call the art of patient siege. That very night, Thutmose ordered his men to construct a complete encirclement around Megiddo. They dug trenches, erected barriers, and built a wall of wooden stakes to trap the enemy within. The Egyptians proudly called it the Wall of Victory. Inscriptions at the Temple of Karnak describe how they even built a temporary fortress opposite the main gate to monitor every movement within the city. Initially, the Canaanite coalition hoped for reinforcements from allied cities. However, Thutmose had already blocked every road leading to Megiddo. Egyptian scouts patrolled day and night, intercepting supply caravans and cutting off food and water. Slowly but surely, famine began to grip the city. As weeks turned into months, desperation grew within the walls of Megiddo. The king of Kadesh launched several breakout attempts, but Egyptian vigilance thwarted them all. The pharaoh's sentries maintained constant watch, utilizing polished bronze mirrors to signal across the encampment, an early form of battlefield communication. But Thutmose III did more than just surround his enemy. He waged a psychological war. He released a few captured soldiers with a clear message: those who surrender before hunger claims them shall live. This message spread rapidly within Megiddo, and morale plummeted. Civilians grew restless, and soldiers began to whisper surrender. Outside, the Egyptian army remained calm and organized. Their linen tents gleamed in the sun, rations were distributed precisely, and prayers to Thonis Ra echoed across the camp each day. Thutmose III often walked among his men, offering words of encouragement. The patient man is stronger than the reckless army. This phrase would later be immortalized in Egyptian annals as a testament to his leadership. After months of siege, the city was on the brink of collapse. Food supplies were exhausted, animals had been slaughtered, and people were even resorting to eating leather and bark. One by one, attempts to escape failed. The noose tightened around Megiddo. Finally, after approximately 7 long months, the king of Kadesh could endure no more. Carrying a tribute of gold, silver, and fine horses, he emerged from a gate and bowed before the pharaoh's chariot. Thutmose III accepted the surrender with calm dignity. There was no massacre, no destruction, only submission. He spared the population, reinstated the local rulers under Egyptian authority, and transformed the rebellious cities of Canaan into loyal vassals of the empire. The spoils of victory were immense. Hundreds of chariots, thousands of horses, and untold treasures. The siege of Megiddo was over. It was not merely a triumph of arms, but a triumph of strategy, restraint, and wisdom. A victory that transformed Thutmose III from a young pharaoh into one of the greatest military leaders the ancient world had ever known. As the gates of Megiddo swung open and the king of Kadesh surrendered, the morning sun illuminated a battlefield strewn with broken chariots and a silence that followed the storm of battle. Pharaoh Thutmose III stood upon his golden chariot, gazing northward toward the lands of Canaan and Syria, now open to the might of Egypt. The siege of Megiddo represented not just a victory, but a turning point in history. The very moment Egypt transformed from a kingdom into a vast empire that stretched far beyond the Nile Valley. Thutmose III moved swiftly to consolidate his power. He summoned all the Canaanite princes to pledge their allegiance to him and established annual tribute agreements. Cities that dared to rebel were forced to pay gold, silver, horses, and provide hostages. Their sons were sent to Thebes for education and as a guarantee of their continued loyalty. Through this clever system of vassal governance, Egypt effectively ruled an entire region without the need for massive occupation forces. A grand triumphal ceremony was held at Megiddo, and Thutmose ordered the entire campaign to be meticulously inscribed on the walls of the temple of Ammonius at Karnak, creating what is considered the world's first detailed military chronicle. It recorded every march, every tactical decision, and the immense spoils of war. Over 924 chariots, 2,000 horses, 340 noble captives, and treasures beyond measure. In the decade that followed, Thutmose III launched 17 additional campaigns, extending Egyptian control deep into Levant and northern Syria, even reaching the distant Euphrates River. Each expedition followed the same disciplined principles he had forged at Megiddo: speed, intelligence, and calculated siege warfare. Under his exceptional leadership, Egypt rose to become the first global superpower of the ancient world. The impact of Megiddo extended far beyond the realm of warfare. Trade flourished throughout the region. Cedar wood from Lebanon, silver from Anatolia, and war horses from Mitanni poured into Egypt. Thebes and Memphis transformed into vibrant centers of commerce and diplomacy. Meanwhile, the sons of Canaanite nobles, raised in Egypt's temples and schools, returned home as loyal governors, spreading Egyptian culture, language, and religion throughout the Near East. The victory also ushered in a new era of diplomacy. Thutmose III dispatched envoys to distant kingdoms, securing alliances through tribute, gifts, and strategic marriages. Egypt's power became as much psychological and cultural as it was military, a balance that few empires have ever been able to achieve again. Yet, the greatest legacy of Megiddo was not the acquisition of territory or wealth, but the strategic wisdom it imparted. For the first time in recorded history, a commander masterfully combined force with patience, intellect, and mercy. Thutmose III did not seek annihilation but submission. He sought to rule through respect as much as through fear. For this, later generations would come to call him the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. When Thutmose III finally returned to Thebes, he was greeted as both a conquering hero and a demigod. The temple of Karnak glittered with gold, and the people chanted his name for days on end. But to the pharaoh himself, Megiddo was more than just a triumph. It was a solid foundation of a lasting order, an empire governed by discipline, intelligence, and compassion. His victory ensured Egypt's dominance for centuries to come, marking the dawn of one of humanity's greatest civilizations. 3,000 years have passed since Pharaoh Thutmose III conquered Megiddo, yet the name still resonates throughout history. Megiddo, the birthplace of organized warfare and the dawn of recorded strategy. At Megiddo, for the very first time, war became a science. Thutmose III utilized intelligence, speed, and precise coordination, meticulously planning every move before striking. The inscriptions at Karnak became the first military manual in human history, inspiring commanders from Greece, Persia, and Rome centuries later. Historians often refer to him as the father of modern strategy, a man who conquered not through brute force, but with logic and discipline, the triumph of human intellect over chaos. Megiddo became a powerful symbol of Egyptian power and order. It proved that war, when guided by wisdom, could bring stability rather than destruction. From this core idea emerged the world's first concept of imperial governance, a unified system of law, tribute, and administration across diverse lands. The new kingdom of Egypt flourished for centuries, its very foundation rooted in the hard-won victory at Megiddo. Centuries later, Megiddo entered the Bible under its Hebrew name Har-Megiddo, meaning Hill of Megiddo. In the book of Revelation, it transformed into Armageddon, the site of the final, climactic battle between good and evil. How fitting that the birthplace of empire would also become the symbol of the apocalypse. Megiddo serves as a stark reminder to humanity that every power, no matter how great, inevitably faces its end, that creation and destruction are eternal partners in the ongoing cycle of history. Thutmose III was not only a conqueror, but also a visionary builder and skilled diplomat. He strengthened trade routes, constructed storage depots, and ruled with fairness and respect. Ancient records describe him as a king who ruled with reason, not fear. His innovative system of loyal vassal states inspired future pharaohs and allowed Egypt to remain dominant for over 4 centuries, an unparalleled achievement in the ancient world. Today, the ruins of Megiddo rest quietly in northern Israel. Beneath the surface of soil lie 26 layers of civilization, each telling a compelling story of war, trade, and faith. Archaeologists continue to uncover temples, walls, and weapons, silent witnesses to humanity's oldest lessons about ambition and fate. Megiddo stands as a timeless mirror of mankind, glory and ruin, conquest and humility. It teaches us that true and lasting power lies not in the sword, but in understanding and knowing when to stop. Even today, military academies around the world study Megiddo as the first recorded campaign in history, while theologians interpret it as a moral metaphor, the fundamental choice between peace and destruction. Thutmose III's victory was not merely territorial. It was a testament to the power of intelligence to reshape the world and the ability of compassion to sustain it. Thus, the name Megiddo endures, standing at the crossroads of history and prophecy, between war and peace, between beginning and end.